And it is so important what you just said there because we do kind of emit an energy and we don't even realize we do it sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. And just taking and you're modeling good behavior. So what
Yes.
happens is when you're the one in the room as a leader, right? I'm the one directing the energy, right? I'm not,
Yeah.
eh, you know, making them do it or any of that. I'm just kind of orchestrating the team or whatnot.
Right.
They will start to come into coherence with you, especially if you're grounded and you're centered and your vibration can kind of bring them in. And then if everyone is in resonance with one another, right? We're all on the same path. We understand the vision. We know the mission, who's accountable for what, roles and responsibilities are defined. There's a structure in place, project schedule, project objectives. Everybody agrees that this is what success looks like. That creates coherence too. So it's not
Yeah.
that and breath work,
Right.
it's not like the spreadsheet and the sound bath. It's both things.
Yeah.
And that's when you like elevate yourself to a whole nother level because now innovative ideas are coming through. You're not saying resisting like, oh, that's never been done before.
Welcome
Like,
to the new chapter of the Her Resources podcast. I'm your host, Linda Misegadis, and I'm so excited to be stepping into this next season with you solo. This podcast has always been about amplifying women's voices, exploring the challenges we face in HR, leadership, and life, and sharing the tools and inspiration we need to thrive. And now, I'm taking that mission even deeper. You'll hear real conversations with bold and authentic women, as well as reflections from me on everything from pay equity and burnout to confidence, leadership, and the messy, beautiful journey of growth. This is more than just a podcast, it's a community, a space for us to learn, lead, and lift each other up. Welcome to this new beginning. This is the Her Resources podcast. Let's get started. Hey, everyone, and welcome back to the Her Resources podcast. This is where we have real, honest conversations about growth, leadership, and the many ways that women are redefining success inside and out. Today's episode is one that really speaks to alignment, both in life and in leadership. I'm sitting down with Chelan. I'm going to get it
you
right,
got it.
Chelan.
No, you got
With
it.
Chelan Vanno, who is the founder of CP Innovations Group and the Portal in Utica, New York. Chelan spent over 20 years in federal leadership, mastering the art of operational excellence as a PMP and Lean Six Sigma black belt. But what I love about her story is how she took that deep expertise in systems and strategy and infused it with something far more personal: purpose, energy, and wellness. Through her work now, Chelan helps individuals, organizations, and even entire communities operate at their highest frequency, aligning strategy, systems, and human potential for sustainable success. We're diving into what it really means to perform with purpose, lead mindfully, and build organizations and lives that thrive from the inside out. So let's get into it. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I am so excited to have you here because this is I loved our conversation when we really got to know each other a little bit better and really kind of understanding, especially this alignment between strategy, systems, and wellness, which I loved about all of it and just kind of the frequency. But I want to just let everybody know a little bit about CP Innovations Group because you really do focus on innovative growth, mindful leadership, and resource optimization. And your mission is to rebuild resilient ecosystems that elevate individuals, businesses, and entire regions to their highest potential. So, we'll put in the show notes how to get a hold of Chelan and also information about the organization as well. But can you talk a little bit about, your background and how you got here in the first place?
Yeah. So federal service. I started in federal service when I was 24 years old, and I finally got to a position where I was in the organization I wanted to be in, right? Project management, Lean Six Sigma. I loved working with teams. Post COVID, I was already working from home quite a bit. So I had that work life balance. And then also, uh, I really enjoyed what I was doing. So it was a difficult decision for me to move on and become a full-time entrepreneur. But with the background in strategy, I was seeing that my personal performance was starting to shift by using these different techniques like sound immersion, breathwork practices, nervous system regulation, like the way I was able to show up on meetings, on Zoom, in person,
Right.
the ideas that I was coming up with and what I was actually capable of doing was, from ideation to execution a lot quicker. And so, working for the federal government, I was offered the DRP program when President Trump came along and offered us
Right.
that option. And so that was a great launching point for me because it gave me 6 to 7 months of my federal salary while I was launching the business. So this concept started to brew like a while ago about how we could blend business with wellness. And then as my understanding of reality started to change, right, like about energetics and about mindfulness and even beyond the mind, right, beyond the intellect, I started to see and feel like I wasn't living up to my potential. Like I felt like I could really do bigger things and help more people. So then I got into sound healing. You can see the gong behind me. I mean, that was a big catalyst for where I'm at today. So, and I just launched not too long ago. So, I left federal service in February. Technically, I stopped working, but October 31st was my first, or September 30th, sorry, was my last day of federal service. So yeah, I'm still in the beginning stages of all of this. So
That's fantastic. I'm hearing more and more, and I'm a little curious what maybe inspired you to go the entrepreneurial route because I am hearing this more and more from women. And I think that there's a lot of women who are experiencing a lot of burnout, a lot of
mhm,
frustration.
yeah.
And we've worked, and it is really kind of coming from maybe an older workforce of women who have spent many, many years proving themselves in the workforce, getting to this place, and just kind of finding themselves going, what was it all for? So, how did you kind of make that transition and make that decision to take? You spent 20 years in federal leadership. It is nice that the opportunity came along that kind of nudged you to do that. But there had to have been something that was already going on that caused you to embrace it.
Yeah, I obviously grew up in a very disciplined, structured environment. Like as far as my career is concerned, I mean, working for the Department of Defense, there were
Yes.
a lot of protocols, and we had standardized practices, and it was very like hierarchical, right? Like I pre-briefed this person, and then we finally briefed the colonel, and it was very like curated conversations. So that I think allows me to bridge a gap between people that are still operating in that old essence, right? Of hierarchical leadership
Yeah.
positions, like top down effect. The nervous system regulation is so important. Now that I'm starting to work with my own clients, I'm recognizing that our workforce is coming to the table dysregulated. So even if I'm
Yes.
providing them optimal processes, you want to implement AI, all those types of things. We have to get our teams to a baseline that feels coherent, right? Like I feel inspired to work for you, not I have to work for you. And that can look like a lot of different things, right? I mean, not everyone can just depart their job. They're required to pay the bills. They have a family to support. And that was a
Right.
big part of my decision making too. However, also working for the Department of Defense, I recognize how much abundance is available, right? So knowing
Yeah.
that if I started to scale my business and it's scaling quickly, it started out as just this idea like, oh, I'm going to be a consultant. I'm just going to do PMP work. I'm going to freelance like from my home. Like that was, and yes, there was this energetic, holistic business practice stuff going on
Sure.
in the background. But I was like, okay, I can quick win, make the money I was making for federal service just by, a retainer type scenario. Right. So
Right.
that was like my backup plan. But then the universe had like a whole nother idea for me. And then this space came available. So this space is located in downtown Utica, and it's really become like a catalyst for a lot of people in the area coming into this space to feel something different as far as like feminine leadership and what that looks like.
Absolutely. Well, and for any of our listeners out there who are just listening, I would encourage you to pop over to YouTube and check out the video because if you could see Chelan's background there and just the building there, like it just makes me feel very calm and at peace just looking at that background. And I see you've got
Yeah.
your Christmas tree up, which is beautiful as well. So,
Yeah, we're holding a lot of events here. This is an event space. So I work with other solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, practitioners that want to bring their vision to life, and how do we do that in a tangible way, but also create something that's never really been done before. Like my event tomorrow is Sip and Sound. It's mocktails and the gong, right? And it's
yeah.
so it's kind of combining different modalities to get more people in the room with
Right.
energetic practices.
I have exciting news. The Her Resources podcast is opening sponsorships. If your brand supports women in HR and leadership, think talent, well being, learning, pay equity, coaching, productivity, or mission driven tech. This is your moment. Our listeners are decision makers and change makers who show up for real conversations and practical tools every week. We offer flexible options, pre-roll or mid-roll host reads, series sponsorships, and thought leadership integrations that highlight your story without the fluff. Ready to connect with a highly engaged audience and grow with us? Email contact@herresourcespodcast.com and put sponsorship in the subject line. I can't wait to collaborate. What were some of the defining moments that kind of shifted your perspective from operational excellence to more human alignment? Because as you were talking about with your background, especially working for the federal government and even more so for the Department of Defense and that structured operational approach, what were some of the things that helped you make that shift from where that operational excellence to human?
Yeah. So after COVID, obviously we were working from home so much. I mean, I was
Mhm.
very isolated. A lot of the coworkers and the people that I was actually working with didn't really even work in my local area, right? So I work for a space here, but my clients were worldwide, right? So eventually they did start to open up travel again. And when that happened, I recognized how invigorated I was by being in person with people and how that felt to be able to, connect with my project champion, my project sponsor in person. And knowing that I needed a hybrid approach, right?
Yeah,
But a beautiful space too, not necessarily the cubicle dusty warehouse
right.
style environment. Like that was very detrimental. And one of the big reasons why I didn't want to go back, I wanted to leave, was because I would have to go back into the office full time. And that
Right.
didn't feel good to me at all. I loved working in my environment at home. I was
Mhm.
able to sit down at my yoga mat, do my breath work in the morning. I was able to play my gong in between, very high level meetings. And
Yes.
so it allowed me to really coexist with like work and health, right?
Mhm.
Holistic practices. I could eat healthy, but I was missing people too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I really love being able to sometimes be here. Like sometimes the work we need to do shouldn't really be done on our couch or at our kitchen
True.
table.
Yeah.
So that was a really big part of the reason I was feeling isolated. A lot of practitioners too, because on the side I had a small business, right? I was
Okay.
doing
Yeah.
yoga classes, sound healing classes, things like that. But it was like a side gig. I wasn't making a lot of money. So
Sure.
one of the big parts was like breaking down competitive barriers with other women doing similar type work. So uh, that really launched a big part of this too, because I started to recognize that there were so many women out there that had beautiful gifts, but they didn't have the logistical background to like strategize or put a
Right.
project plan together or figure out their finances, things of that nature. So this is also that as well.
I
Like,
love that.
yeah,
Well, and what I like about that is, it's your background in structure and systems that kind of prepared you for this work. Because as you were talking about that, I think one of the things that holds a lot of people back in general, but definitely women, is how do they get started? How do they do this? Because I think that to your point, there are a lot of women out there with some incredible gifts and talents that they maybe don't know how to go about doing that. So talk a little bit about how that structure and systems really helps you.
yeah, it really does help because I have a vision in my mind, right? I have an idea. And how do I, using AI in general, I mean, I know it's an interesting concept and a
Yeah.
conversation about human-centered and where does the idea come from, but
Mhm.
I mean, using AI in my business is huge, right? It's
Oh,
given me
sure.
the ability to come up with planning, project ideas, do market research. Obviously, you have to double check everything, make sure that the
Yeah,
sources are
trust but
correct.
verify, right?
Exactly. But I mean,
Yeah.
it's just so quick to launch, right? Like I can quickly, an idea comes in, drops in. Okay, I want to have this type of an event. How do I do it? And it's like quick to
Yeah,
do it. So, yeah, that's been really helpful with building my business, showing other
absolutely.
people how to do it, using prompt libraries, things of that nature. A big part of my strategy, though, is intentional AI, right?
Mhm.
Intentional automation. Because if you're not feeding AI information that's good, then it's not going to do your business any good, right? And if you're not really thinking through your process before implementing automation, then the process is still going to remain broken. So it's really looking at businesses from like a holistic perspective. Culture, yes, that's huge, right? Like you have to get
Right.
your employees on board with a new process, a new system, a new
Mhm.
whatever. But yeah, so that was a lot of it as well.
I like that. One of the things you talk a lot about is kind of operating at your highest frequency, and I
Mm.
love that phrase, but what does that mean to you when you say that?
Yeah, it means a lot of different things. But recently I've been investigating energetic intelligence, right? We talk about EI,
Okay.
emotional intelligence, or AI, artificial intelligence, but energetic intelligence as a concept of like, how do people feel when they're in my field, right?
I like
Like
that.
my leadership presents itself before I even say a word. Like when you're
So
in
true.
my orbit, right?
Yeah.
So how do you start to shift your vibration, your frequency?
Mhm.
So these concepts are kind of big, they're kind of vague. People consider them maybe woo in some situations. But
Yeah.
we're never, stillness is like a concept that is misinterpreted. We can never be fully still, right? Like our blood is running, our heart is
Right.
beating, we're vibrating creatures in nature. So the stillness is really harmonizing, right? Like your breath, your heart, your words, your mind,
Right.
your intentions, and all of that comes into alignment. And that is what I mean when I'm in my highest frequency. Like I'm in alignment. Like I am
Right.
clear about my direction. I'm able to take intuitive hits and be like, okay, this direction, right? Or not
Mhm.
doing anything at all. I think we live in a society that awards striving, grinding, doing more, faster, harder, quicker,
So true.
And I've found in my personal experience that the more I lean into allowing, right, the right connections, the right collaborations, people are just walking through the door and, it's an easy yes for me.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's what I mean by vibrating at my highest frequency or even
I
a
like that.
business. Yeah, like an
Yeah.
ecosystem.
No, well, and what I like about what you said there too, because Kathleen O'Sullivan, who we just had on our podcast, her episode just aired this week, and that's one of the things she talked about. And I like what she said there is that your energy shows up before you do, before you even say anything. And she talked about how when she was at her breaking point and when she'd kind of hit that corporate wall,
Mm,
was how were people reacting around her? Like it's just when she entered the room, and
mm.
she didn't even have to say anything and there was this feeling of, "Ooh, I shouldn't probably approach her," or, "Oh, maybe I should, walk softly around her." And it is so important what you just said there because we do kind of emit an energy and we don't even realize we do it sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. And just taking and you're modeling good behavior. So what
Yes.
happens is when you're the one in the room as a leader, right? I'm the one directing the energy, right? I'm not,
Yeah.
eh, you know, making them do it or any of that. I'm just kind of orchestrating the team or whatnot.
Right.
They will start to come into coherence with you, especially if you're grounded and you're centered and your vibration can kind of bring them in. And then if everyone is in resonance with one another, right? We're all on the same path. We understand the vision. We know the mission, who's accountable for what, roles and responsibilities are defined. There's a structure in place, project schedule, project objectives. Everybody agrees that this is what success looks like. That creates coherence too. So it's not
Yeah.
that and breath work.
Right.
It's not like the spreadsheet and the sound bath. It's both things.
Yeah.
And that's when you like elevate yourself to a whole nother level because now innovative ideas are coming through. You're not saying resisting like, oh, that's never been done before. Like that was a big thing about
Mhm.
federal service, right? It was regulated, very regulated.
Absolutely,
And
yes.
people would say to me, like, we can't do that. That's in law
Mhm.
1.7. And I'm like, no, why can't we look at changing that? It's been in place
Right.
since, 1950. Like, we haven't
Right.
updated this. It doesn't make sense. It's just,
Yeah.
so yeah.
No, I like that. So you talk also about purposeful performance. So talk a little bit about what do you mean by that? How do you define purposeful performance?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, let me think about this. So, purposeful performance for me is like I have the energy to
Mhm.
do the things that I need to do that are in resonance with me, right? I feel so invigorated sometimes that I have so much energy. I'm just like buzzing around here, like doing
Yeah.
all of the things that I want to do, but like following fun, following what excites
Okay.
you.
Yeah.
So it feels like it's purpose driven, right? Like when
Yeah.
I'm going into that and then I'm performing at a higher level, like how long, preparing for a client meeting, things like that,
Sure.
right? Like it's
Yeah.
happening quickly, grounding before I get on
Mhm.
the call. So I'm ready and prepared for the conversation. So yeah, that's kind of what I mean by purposeful performance, right? I'm performing at a level that feels very rooted in my essence, like my mission.
Yeah. It's so
Yeah.
important. Well, it kind of aligns with the mindfulness concept, right? As well as that you're really kind of coming into an activity, whatever it is, where there's purpose and mindfulness around it, and that you're present. Because how many times do we all come rushing into a meeting, or we're moving from call to call to call? I know I do it frequently. If
Hmm.
I have back
Hmm.
to back calls, by the end of the day anymore, I can't even tell you what I committed to, or maybe even what three of those six phone calls were about, because in the moment I was just moving from the next thing to the next thing. So there was no purpose behind it because I wasn't grounded in why we were even there and having the conversation. And many times I'm not present in the conversation either, right? Because I'm thinking about the next call or the next email. And so that's kind of, I think that's where you're going with purposeful
Yeah.
performance, is taking that step back, right?
Definitely, and I posted a Instagram reel recently. It was like, I don't hop on a call. Before the call, I'm sitting, I'm, grounding, I'm centering myself. Sometimes
Yeah.
I'll even pull oracle cards just to kind of see where we're at, like energetically. So yeah, there's like some preparation involved in how you're communicating, even through the ethers, right? Like even through the internet, like you can feel the vibe sometimes. Well,
So
I would
true.
say. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
No, that's really good. So when you're working, like either you're coaching individuals or maybe you're working with organizations, tell me what alignment looks like to you. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, so alignment feels like something, right? Like I'm
Okay.
aligned with a bigger vision, mission than
Hmm.
just like my day-to-day routine. And so what happens when you come here, right? A lot of the teams will come into this space. It gets them out of like their work environment. And
Right.
then in the beginning, it's like a little storming, like they're
Yeah.
really not sure, why are we here? Like, what are we doing here? Getting, them kind of grounded and started with that. But it's everybody knows exactly why and how they're contributing to the overall goals, right? Like when the CEO comes in and his
Yeah.
workforce is sitting there, like how are you all aligned with, and that looks different for everybody. What I'm finding is there needs to be flexibility in everybody's work environment. I think it's difficult to say across the board everybody works from home 2 hours, 2 days a week.
Yes.
Some
Yeah.
people don't wanna work in that environment, so it's like keeping
True.
someone's individual needs as a worker, quote, unquote, or someone who is
Hmm.
contributing to the mission of the organization, it's different for everyone, so alignment will feel different, and I think it's also, aligning per personal, like personal
Uh-huh.
alignment, right? Like showing them some ways to realign during the day, like if they're getting off course, if they're chatting about the issue? How do their
Yeah.
words come out, right? Like I remember when I was younger, I mean, all I did was complain about my job, right? It was like this
Yeah.
redundant thing
Yes.
at the water cooler, on walks with my coworkers,
Sure.
my friends at night. And then that was just perpetuating the same old thing. And then when I started to
Yeah.
become grateful for my job, like even the little parts of it, like, oh, well, I get to get my kids at 3 o'clock. I have these
Right.
opportunities. And then that started to shift my narrative around it. So then I felt more in alignment with my mission, even if it wasn't my sole purpose, right?
Sure.
Those things that I did that whole time got
Mhm.
me to where I am today. Like I never would have thought that I'd be using my PMP certification for what I am now. When my boss
Right.
was like, "Hey, go get your certification, go do the PMP." And I'm like, I don't know. And sure enough, here I am, and it's such a great way to have a credential on hand that is also sound healer, quote unquote.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it's a cool to have. I didn't know that at the time. So being in my personal alignment, like trusting the process, and if as those opportunities come through, and as getting those intuitive hits, like, yeah, okay, I'll do the PMP. I was
Yeah.
so excited when I got that certification. When I walked out of
Yeah.
there,
Well, it's a hard
passing the test.
certification to get, so you should be.
It was good. It was a
Yeah.
great challenge for me.
Are you ready to take your podcast to the next level? Let LJM Productions help you sound your best. We specialize in podcast editing, production, audio restoration, and mixing, ensuring every episode is polished, professional, and ready to wow your audience. Whether you're just starting out or a seasoned podcaster, we'll handle the technical details so you can focus on sharing your voice. Partner with LJM Productions today and hear the difference.
And what I like about what you're saying, but I'm curious, your thoughts on this is it necessary? Because I think that there is a lot of misalignment today in corporate America, frankly, in that there's this, is it necessary for you to be completely aligned from the top down?
Mhm.
Can you have sometimes I see where maybe just the senior leadership is aligned, but then middle management and below are not aligned. Like, how
Mhm.
important is it for you to be fully aligned from the top down? And is that even achievable? I guess is my other question.
Yeah, I mean, I know that I'm talking probably to an audience of people that still work for someone, and I know
Right.
it is very
Yeah,
difficult. It was hard for me to be in alignment with the mission of the Department of Defense
for sure.
at times. What I tried to do was make it about maybe the service member that needed his paycheck before Christmas, and
Sure.
ensuring that I'm I'm responsible for the financial disclosure of these
Hmm.
types of transactions. Or I saw people struggling because eventually I got to a really great point because I was helping people solve their pain, right? Like I would
Yeah.
watch people in their jobs and they're doing things and it's redundant and it's rework and they don't understand why they do this all day long. And then I
Uh-huh.
would come in, I would apply the Lean Six Sigma methodology and they would be engaged, they would be involved in what solutions we put into place. And that helped me to feel like I was making a difference in my job. I think contribution today is an interesting concept, right? Like how are we
Hmm.
contributing to the community, just in general?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's so true. Well, and I think the other important thing that you said is that gratitude, because
Mhm.
similarly, I know exactly what you mean. And I even find myself every once in a while, I have to catch myself and go, you know what, stop complaining about everything. Because at the end of the day, I get to, I work with a great group of people. I, work for a wonderful company. Whatever it is, I get to do these things that maybe other people don't get to do.
Mhm.
And to your point, as a result of that, it affords me these opportunities. But trying to find that positive, because that also then helps us create positive energy outside of our lives, right? Because work is so consuming. We spend the
Mm.
bulk of our time working. So, how can we ensure that we are then creating that frequency and creating that positive energy that we can carry into the rest of our life? Because if we're complaining about work all the time, to your point, it trickles over into our personal life, into our family, and even into the things we're trying to enjoy outside of work. So,
Right. And if you aren't in alignment with your job, eventually, like if you're, looking outside for something different or you're trying to shift the way you're earning money or contributing to
mhm,
society or, allowing yourself to remain neutral, like in those situations too. Because, I was very lucky. I had a great supervisor who afforded me the ability to, generate my own initiatives, go find and get interested in an organization's
Yeah.
difficulties. And then I was so engaged with these people because I just have this inquisitive mind, but I think finding
Uh-huh.
what you're really good at too. Like,
Yeah.
and also if you're a leader in an organization and finding that this person is just not a good fit here.
Mhm.
Like, this isn't
Yeah.
the right space for them, but maybe if we could find them something else that would be different and really being open to that. Maybe it's not even in the
Yes.
same business line. Maybe it's somewhere different. Maybe they need a little bit of training, upskilling,
Right.
to something different. And I'm finding that a lot of people don't even know what it is that
That's
they're
so
quote
true.
good at per se.
Yeah.
Um,
No.
so I think if
Yeah,
you can,
I think we find ourselves saying like, I mean, sometimes I say to myself, I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up, right? I'm still trying to
right.
figure out what exactly it is that is going to create that. And you're right. I think because oftentimes we don't take the time to invest in ourselves and to really do that reflection. And we spend most of our time waiting for something to be done to us instead of actually taking the initiative to do something for ourselves and to go out there and do that. Because the leap that you made, I mean, that's a it can be very scary, right? To go out on your own, to lose the security of corporate America, which I
Mhm.
mean, that's a false security anyway, but it does create a sense of security,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Relying on someone
definitely.
else, but now you're just relying on you. So I think, it's a bold move to make for sure.
Yeah, so I agreed. It was a big, bold move to do. Um, but yeah, it's been a great opportunity and journey. And like I would have never in a million years thought, because for months and months and years, literally, I was like, how am I ever going to leave this job? Central New
Yes.
York, six figures,
Yeah,
federal job. I had 20 years service. So,
right.
even if they moved people around, I wasn't going to lose my job. I'd have to go
Uh-huh.
somewhere and work. It takes literally an act of Congress sometimes to even, the HR system and the federal service is
Yes.
insane. Being
Right.
a first line supervisor, you have to go through so much to even document performance and all of that kind of stuff. So I knew that I was good to go for a long time, unless I like
Yeah.
did something crazy,
Really,
I
yes.
was going to be fine. Like I could have lived out my whole entire career there and, just went that direction. But and I am grateful for everything that I was able to learn.
Of
Just
course,
having those
yeah.
experiences, traveling all over the country,
Yeah.
training people on different types of systems, finding out what I was good at. Like if
Yes,
nothing else,
yeah.
they were giving me plenty of opportunities. I mean, luckily I worked for an agency that was big enough that you could
Mhm.
move around, try different things, see what felt right.
Right.
Make your own way,
Yeah.
through the process of like getting to it. And yeah, I really didn't wanna go back into, like, official leadership role. Like, I was
Yeah.
in a support organization. I knew there were probably gonna be cuts there anyway because we were overhead, right?
Sure.
We weren't really making any money per se.
Right.
So, yeah, I could either choose to stay there and go through change again, and I just couldn't do that. I knew I couldn't,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Okay, well, one way or the other, I'm gonna just go this direction." And luckily, I got paid for all of my time off.
Yes.
7
Yeah.
months of salary is quite a bit. So it was
Yeah.
great. Like it stabilized me. It gave me the ability to feel, and I think that's a lot of it too in feeling comfortable, not having that security,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
regulating your nervous system enough to be able to be like, okay, I'm going to hold this down. I'm not going to freak out. There's no
Right.
need to worry about where the money's coming from. The universe will provide for me because I'm in alignment, right, with my heart.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I know that my vision is very big and the things that I'm doing is going to change and impact communities, areas, shifting how my programming looks, like maybe not targeting corporate,
Yeah.
targeting more social, economic,
Sure.
humanitarian spaces where these types of techniques would just really elevate a whole level of community that just doesn't have access to it right now. Right? Like,
No, yeah,
mm,
absolutely. Well, and so let's talk a little bit about the work that you're doing because it really blends two worlds. It's strategic consulting, but it's holistic experiences. So, talk a little bit more about what CP Innovations Group and the portal are doing. And what kind of challenges are you typically helping organizations solve or individuals?
yeah, a lot of my clients right now are, corporate clients. So
Yeah.
they come to the portal. One of my signature offerings is what's called a strategic immersion, right? So they get out of their corporate business space and they come here, and downstairs there's a beautiful a conference space, there's individual practitioner rooms. So they come here and they immerse, right? And we start right out with a nice tea, some really refreshing food, nothing to like clog them up, no bagels and cream cheese or anything, like a nice, yogurt
Right.
parfait or something like that. We're trying to keep our energy high. And then we
Mhm.
do some like breath work, right? Just sitting up straight, feet on the ground, a nice deep inhale, exhale through the mouth. That's something that people don't even do. They never
Yeah.
even thought about box breathing or very, very simple techniques. So I don't really have to go into crazy like shamanic breath work or something to have them have some
Yeah.
transcendental experience. They haven't dropped into their body in a very long time. So just that, and then you see them open their eyes and they're like, okay, you've landed, you're here. Like, let's start
Yeah.
to talk about things. And then we go through the program, like the framework. And then
Mhm.
lunchtime can be really fun. Like one of the last clients I had, she wanted to put astrology in. And it was like a fun, at this point. I
Yeah.
think that it's an incredible mechanism for figuring out what, your path. That's a
Sure.
whole nother modality we could talk about some other time. But
Yeah.
just even as like Mercury sign and communication, and then, talking about how do you prefer to communicate. So it was a conversation piece, right? So we had some
Yeah.
lunch. And then in the afternoon, we come up here. And I use zero gravity chairs for a reason because a lot of people haven't experienced lying down on the ground.
Mhm.
They're not ready to get like under a blanket and lie on a bolster and the whole 9 yards yet, right? So they sit in a zero gravity chair. We do some talking, some journaling, some visualization work, right? Just imagining all of my systems aligning perfectly, perfectly. What would it feel like if the cash flow, I never had to worry about cash on hand? What would it
Yeah.
feel like if the inventory was always on point? And
Yeah.
helping them to feel like what that would be like if their systems were all in place and what that, so we do different types of techniques up here. And then we do the sound immersion, right? So they lean back in their chair, they cover up if they want, and then they just listen to the sounds of the instruments that I play. We talk about vibration, we talk about science, right? Like the waves of the sound are coming into the space, they're penetrating our skin, they're penetrating our bones, they're in our internal organs. It's resonance in real in action, right? It's not
Yeah.
just thinking about vibration, harmony, coherence. It's
Right.
actually physically being in the same room with these instruments, which are so profound as far as, shifting your energy.
I What's so funny, how we've lost sight, and maybe we never had sight on our senses, right? It's like what we see, what we hear, what we taste and feel, all of those sorts of things. And it is amazing to me, just breathing,
Mhm.
right? So that box breathing, like you were talking about, or even before a call, if you're feeling particularly frustrated or stressed, just taking those minutes to kind of like take some deep breaths in and some easy breaths out. It is amazing how centering something as simple as breathing can really do for us, or even the sound piece of it.
Mhm.
I know for me personally too, I've used sound to help me sleep at night, especially when I travel because I can't fall asleep in a hotel room. But I started, instead of having the background of a TV on, which is
Mhm.
distracting, right? I started using more sounds of nature, and it
Mhm.
is incredible the impact that that really has on us. But we are so out of touch with our humanity or our humanness or our feelings, I think. And I'm not sure what has driven that, but I think a lot of people are in that situation for sure.
Yeah, I think there's a couple things that are probably doing it, but one of the things too is when I do interviews. So one of the bigger concepts I do is like an organizational assessment. So
Okay.
I'll look at the organization over a period of time, usually like 60 to 90 days. And in that, I also conduct interviews. Like so program directors, C-suite staff come in and I give them an option. They can do it over virtual if they want. I try to encourage them if they're local to come to the building and we start with a breath, right? I just have them sit down and they're not used to it. It feels a little
Nope.
awkward at first.
Yep.
But every time we have a conversation, I have them bring their energetic fragments back here, right? Like that conversation you had this morning, like bring it all back, bring it into your
Yeah.
center. Like let's land an anchor so we can have an open, a clear, and just setting the intentions of this is a transparent conversation. Let's be, tell truth telling. I'm a third party and I love it because
Yes.
I can truth tell and in a way that can shift companies because it's hard for sometimes an employee to tell their CEO or a CEO even to get feedback, right? Because sometimes they surround themselves with employees or whatever that,
Right.
they don't, they're all resonating at the same frequency. So someone needs
Hmm.
to kind of come in to interrupt that a bit,
That's true.
but gracefully, right? Like it's not all
Yeah.
dire, it's not terrible. And then just saying little things like, okay, let's shift how we talk about this. Is
Yeah.
that person always that way or could they be another way? Is that a story you've
Right.
written about that person or is that really how it is? And then why, maybe what are you projecting? And just bringing some
Yes.
of that accountability back to them too. So, yeah, I mean, it's just a nice way to connect one on one with people. And, back to your original question about why I think feeling, right? Like as a woman, and
Yes.
we could go there, I wanted to cry at work like so many times, you know?
Right. Yeah.
A lot of times I would put that down, and
Hmm.
because my ideas sometimes were, intangible or the reasoning behind those ideas it wasn't as concrete sometimes,
Right.
I had to
Yeah.
show up at masculine, right? I had to sit around
Yes.
the table and
Yes.
act that way and do it that way, and there wasn't a lot of variation in how I was able to show up for a long time to prove myself as someone who
Right.
is capable of sitting in the rooms with the senior executive
Yes.
staff. Who are you? You got to show up that way. And I think that allowing the fluidity of feminine leadership, right?
Yes.
It is
Yes.
intuitive.
It
And
is.
it's a real level of intelligence. Intuition is intelligence, is something that you can't see or feel. And that's difficult sometimes for traditional masculine driven patriarchal societies to allow, really,
That
because
is
they
so
can't
true.
see it. It's a feeling. So,
Yes.
mhm.
No, I like that. We had one of our previous guests, Kristen Sadler. She's the CEO of Mosaic, and she said when she had first moved into this role, all of a sudden she just broke down and she started crying, and she felt immediately embarrassed by it, and her mentor told her, you're just being yourself and do not apologize for it again. You're going to have another moment again where you're going to break down and cry, so cry, don't apologize, suck it up, and then go on about your day, but allow yourself to be yourself. And I think you're absolutely right. I think women especially women who move into positions of power, find themselves oftentimes having to project as
Mm.
masculine and not
Mhm.
feminine in order to maintain a seat at the table, right? We kind of carry ourselves in a different way, and that can really take a toll on you emotionally over time.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure.
Yeah,
It's definitely
no,
something that I've been trying to lean away from, like not working 9 to 5. Like I don't have
right?
structured hours. If I feel, I make my Mondays kind of mine, right? I don't take
Yeah,
in-person meetings those days. I have 2 kids, right? I still have 2 boys. They're in senior high right now. So they're very independent, but I still love to
sure.
be around a lot. So yeah, and it's a new way to define working, right? Like, I don't
Yes.
feel like it's work to me. It
Yeah,
feels like just
yeah,
part of my, like, orbit, right? I work what I want. Like, look at this beautiful space. Like, why wouldn't I wanna be here, like, hanging out,
right.
drinking tea and inviting
I
people
agree.
in? And, I mean, we had a whole leadership conversations meeting here today. There was 15 or 16 women in this space. It's, one Friday a month, we bring them in. We talk about different things. We talk about energetic health, ways to show up as a leader in this space. And we're seeing such an outpouring of women. There's different circles. There's, the success circle, which is a women
Yeah,
entrepreneur space, and this other group, the women's business fund. And so we're starting
yeah.
to bring a lot of these people into the same spaces. And it's incredible like how much momentum it really has. So that's really inspiring too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, that's gotta be very exciting, for you for sure. So let's talk a little bit about mindful leadership because I
Mm.
think that that feels more important than ever, and the interesting thing about all of this is none of these concepts are new, right? It's
Mhm.
kind of like, the books that have been written, most of those books are older books, like, when you lean back into them, it's just I don't think we understood what was being said at the
Yeah.
time. Hey, everyone. We're the Her Resources podcast, where women share real stories, real lessons, and the resources that help them succeed. We're always looking for inspiring women, business leaders, creatives, educators, and changemakers who want to share their journey and empower others. If that sounds like you, we'd love to hear your story. reach out to us at contact@herresourcespodcast.com and let's start the conversation. So, how can leaders kind of balance the need for results with empathy and presence? Because I think that's a challenge sometimes.
Yeah, it definitely is. So one of the things that I've been working through is this uh, ability to observe your thinking, like as a
Oh,
leader, right? Like,
okay.
so, having awareness of maybe how you might have been contributing to some of the issues of the team,
Yes.
right? I think a lot of
Yeah.
times, like, we project the issues on someone outside of us, right? Like,
Very true.
so, having that mindful leadership and even get dropping out of the mind and into the body, like, this is a
Yeah.
lot of intellectualism now. Like, I can watch every podcast, I can read all the books, I can scroll
Yeah.
through TikTok. I'm bombarded with information. Like, I feel like
So
dropping
much.
down from the mind into the heart center is like
Yeah.
so important. And just like literally just putting your hand on your heart, like going out for a walk, being in nature. It seems so simple, but it's so
Yeah.
beneficial for people in leadership roles of being, dropping maybe leave it a little weight, even from emotional intelligence, right? We got the DISC
Yeah.
assessment and this thing, and it's
Yes.
analyzing and it's categorizing and it's,
Yeah.
putting us all in this column and I'm an S and I'm a C and da, da, da,
Right.
I don't even know what that means right now, so, but it's beneficial, right? To
Yes. Yeah.
consider and contemplate and analyze yourself, like
Absolutely.
self-analysis, I think is so
Yeah.
important, right? Like finding that time for contemplation as a leader, right?
Hmm.
Visioning what your day looks like using a little notebook and just writing down,
Yeah.
like, this is what it feels like when all my employees show up every day. I'm fully
Yeah.
staffed. I get to take 2-3 weeks off a month and not
Right.
bring my cell phone. Like, what's your non-negotiables? Like, as a CEO, as the leader of your
Yeah.
organization, how do you want it to feel?
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really important, and it kinda comes back to that alignment conversation, right?
Mm.
Is
Mhm.
if you aren't aligned yourself, you can't possibly then expect the people that work for, around, or under you to be aligned either because you probably are projecting this alignment whether consciously or not.
Right, and there's a lot we can't do, right, as leaders. I think we have this huge burden as someone who does maybe run like a small, medium, large
Mhm.
organization. There's just certain things that we're not gonna be able to do for our employees, right? Like, they
It's
have to
true.
have the resources and like, guide them down. Like, I think EAP, like, we could talk maybe a little bit about
Yes,
that, right? Like, right now, EAP traditionally is talk therapy.
it is,
Right?
yeah.
It's like, okay, you get
Mhm.
3 sessions, you get 9 sessions, you're required to have an EAP program. Does
Yes.
anybody use it? What kind of you get 1 training a year, whatever, right?
Right. Yep.
I didn't call EAP
No.
for 20
Mm-mm.
years. I mean, never,
Yeah.
not one time. I should have.
Yeah,
There were
right?
plenty of
Yeah.
times where I was close to crisis and I probably should have called, and it would have been
Sure.
helpful for me to maybe get someone on the phone and talk to them. But then maybe thinking like, innovatively about what kind of things do we provide our employees as resources. Maybe
Right.
it's not talk therapy. Maybe it's talk therapy and energetic health, right? A
Mhm.
little breath work, a little of this. Maybe that's the kind of training that needs to start coming into businesses. I mean, it already is, right? Like, I think we're starting to see that, like in larger hospital settings, bigger corporations, they're bringing wellness, they're bringing mindfulness in, those types of things. So I think just continuing to perpetuate that would be really a big shift.
So I'm wondering then, how can mindful leadership really contribute to building a resilient and thriving ecosystem?
Mhm,
Because there's so
mhm,
much going on in corporate
mhm,
America
mhm.
today, and so many organizations are really challenged. So talk a little bit about how that could really help.
Yeah, so I think it's like really a mindset shift,
Yeah,
honestly, like about reality in general. Like we live in this society where our resources are scarce, right? The budgeting and cutbacks and
right.
tax increases, things like that. And especially in nonprofit organizations, right? Like everybody's trying to get the same
Sure.
funding, like work under all these constraints. But in reality, the universe is infinite, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think that there's some mindset shifts that if they started to take place and root in to people how they really saw the world,
Yes, yes.
right? With maybe some lifting the veil of like what we've been told forever about how reality actually interacts with us, right? Like the going out and grabbing and the hoarding of resources and the scarcity lack thinking, right? It's everywhere. I think it's a real epidemic about how we think about reality, but the people at the highest levels, that's what we're hearing, right? Government
Yeah.
shutdowns, budget,
Yes.
tax increases,
So much negativity.
economics are just
Yes.
housing prices, like the things, so it's like so ingrained in our mentality for
Yes.
us not to think that we can be abundant, wealthy, healthy, expansive
Oh my God, that's
beings.
so true. Yeah.
And so that's a concept that is still maybe fringe a little bit,
Mhm.
like because
Mhm.
people are so immersed and enmeshed with our structural situation as far as like,
Right.
our government is concerned and things like that. But there are resources available. Like, we could go on a whole tangent about money and wealth and energy and stuff like that and how, it works. But
Right.
I think there's other ways, and people call it magic. You
Right.
know, it's it is magic, it isn't, but it's also like tuning your awareness to some other radio station. Like I don't need to watch
Yeah.
CNN. I don't have to buy into those
That is such a
ideas.
great point. Yes, you
Mhm.
don't have to be on social media, you don't have to look at the internet, you don't have to watch the news if you don't want to.
I mean, it's good to do sometimes, right? To stay somewhat
Yeah.
tapped in. Like
Yeah.
I'm not like anti social media,
No.
obviously.
Mm-mm. Yeah.
But then being able to discern because we're in a real situation where we're just being bombarded with information constantly.
So much
Yeah.
information.
hmm
Yeah.
hmm
Yeah. So true.
And then trying to, sift through all of that.
No, it's very true. Well, and so what would be like for listeners who are out there who want to start aligning their own strategy, maybe systems and wellness, where do they begin? Like what's a good place to start? Because that can also feel overwhelming. To your point on
hmm
there are a million self-help books out
hmm
there, podcasts,
hmm
YouTube, like there's so much out there today. It can feel really overwhelming. And I think sometimes that's what causes people not to do anything, right? Is because they're too overwhelmed. So what are like how do I begin if this is something I really want to do?
Yeah, I'll tell you, one of the biggest, like most beneficial practices that I ever did to elevate my personal life, and this is kind of taking it out of corporate, is
Yeah.
to write, right? I write a
Okay.
story about my day from the time that I get up to the time that I go to bed. What does it feel like? What does it look like? What does it taste like? What is my perfect existence? What is it? And then
Yeah.
feeling into that, right? Or writing yourself a letter from like 6 months from now. Like, how did you get to where you are in 6 months? What did you do? What steps did you take? Who did you meet? Those types of things.
Right.
So, like, writing a story about where you want to go and what you want your life to look like. So, there is some easy ways to bypass your subconscious, like embodying who you want to be and just being it. Like, I'm just a CEO of a multi revenue stream company, and that's who I am.
Yep.
And I
Yeah.
know that sometimes that could feel delusional. And some people say, like, delusion is what creates like new paradigms, new
Right.
regions, new communities, things like that. And I think just in an essence, what I'm getting from other people is even when I'm talking to people, they're like, oh, I want to do this thing. And I'm like, well, what about this thing? Right? Like, what if you
Mm.
created a whole
Yeah.
program and you sold it to corporate America instead of, being like, oh, I'm gonna create this, like just go big, right? Like
Yeah.
let's just
Yeah.
expand beyond and then and not stopping yourself from
Right.
and there's different times of the year to do different things, right? We're heading into
Sure.
winter time up here in New York. And
Mhm.
it's not like, we have this whole New Year's resolution time frame. And really,
Right.
cyclically, this isn't a great time for us to commit to any new things. We
It's a
should be
really good
going
point.
within,
Yeah.
coming, I'm launching what's called the quiet season. It's a 30-day like mindfulness practice. You'll get like an
Okay.
email from me every day. And it's like anti-resolution. Like I'm not setting like, oh, I want to go to the gym every day on January 1st.
Right.
No, I'm gonna sit here with myself on January 1st.
I like
I'm gonna
that.
take the
Yeah.
mindfulness moments, breathing, trying new things, just being, right? Like we don't spend enough
Yeah.
time in quote unquote stillness. We talked about that in the beginning of this podcast and bringing ourselves into coherence. And this is the dark time, right? Like it's time for us to
It
light the
is.
candles indoors, eat the cozy food, be with
Yeah.
family in a mindful way that doesn't feel chaotic and out of control, like the holidays. I mean, that's a great place to start. We're leading into Christmas right now, and dial it back,
It
make it
gets
a little bit
crazy.
simpler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. Do you personally have like a reflective question or a daily habit that you use to stay in alignment?
Yeah, I do. Every morning I get up and I actually meditate. And
Okay.
I start out in the morning and I go into a little room I have in my home
Uh-huh.
and I journal every day, almost. So I just do a journaling practice and it's nothing profound. It could
Yeah.
be like, hey, I got to drive, Tyler won his game last night, got to
Uh-huh.
grab some groceries, gonna maybe this. And then it sometimes morphs and changes into something more deep or more contemplative, or maybe it's an idea. Maybe I'm really working through something, right? An
Yeah.
issue in my marriage. I'm just like, dark
Mhm.
night stuff, where I'm just like
Yeah.
shadow working, right? Like digging up like what's below the surface that's keeping me from being in my highest frequency, right? Because I'm not
Yeah.
perfect, right? I come with triggers,
Right.
I come with baggage.
Yep.
I can do all the things. So, just spending time with myself to do that self analysis. I pull some cards, right? Like some oracle or tarot cards. And I don't use those mechanisms as like fortune telling. I use it as like
Right.
the hero's journey. It's a myth, right? The
Yeah.
hero's journey
Yeah.
is a beautiful story. And if you just kind of take those cards and contemplate like what they feel like, what it looks like, I write some affirmations to myself, like in the bottom of
Uh-huh.
my journal, and it will just say, like, you know, if it say it's a reverse card and it's quote unquote a negative card, like people say, right? I just spin that around to be like, I'm going to embody the essence of, full abundance today. And I just make something up in the bottom of my journal. So that's basically what I do every day. I used
I
to
love
play the
that.
gong every day at my house, but now it's here. So I try
Yeah.
to spend a little bit of time sitting on the floor, just getting into my body. I love dancing, right? And being in like just free form movement where there's no
Yeah.
choreography, there's nothing to it. It's kind of like uh yoga, but it's dance. You can do
Yeah.
this alone with a mirror, like whatever feels good to you, like loving your body, like as an aging woman, like how am I going to embrace this process and recognize that I'm actually at a point in my life where uh this might be like my the best
Yes.
part. It's not
Yeah.
like heading into the worst part. It's like I'm getting freedom from my family. Like I raised a beautiful
Yes.
family. I'm starting to be able to, you know, let them do their thing. My husband's super
Right.
supportive. So, like, yeah, just being able to do that every day. And that's my daily practice. There's lots of other
Yeah.
things that I do. I just kind of tune in. I think a lot of our spiritual practices or meditation
Mhm.
practices can be very rigid in nature. It's like, do this for 40
Yes.
days. Make sure you do it. If
Yes.
you don't do it, shame yourself, that kind of
Right.
thing. But
Yes.
literally, a bubble bath can be meditation, a spiritual
So
practice.
true.
If you're doing anything with intention, that's all that's necessary. Making a flower arrangement, going to the store and
Right.
buying 3 for $15 flowers and like touching the flowers and looking at the flowers and seeing them and placing them into the vase, and having your beautiful surroundings, your aesthetics. That's really big to me. It's in my astrology, Cancer rising. I love being and seeing beauty around me. So a
Yeah.
lot of that is part of, I think, something we take for granted, especially in the workplace, right? Like we sit in clutter,
Yes.
paper, there's a copier going on in the background.
So true.
Yeah.
No, I love that. What I like about everything that you said is I didn't hear you once say, I open up my app to start my meditation practice, and then I use this app to do this. And nothing against apps because apps are a great place to start. But
Mm-hmm.
what I liked about everything that you said is like you find that center, you do your breath work, you do your journaling. It's all it's not what is my 30-day plan? Have I failed? Because I think that's part of it too. And many times why we quit is because we are setting ourselves up that if we can't do it every day or if we don't follow that rigid program that somebody put out there, that somehow we failed and therefore I guess we just, cash it all in and we just go back to what we've always done. So,
Right. And that's just perpetuating the problem to begin with, right? Like we just
yeah,
put so much in
absolutely.
taking ourselves so seriously. I think once you start kind of down this journey of self analysis and, maybe even spirituality and redefining what that means for you, outside of what you grew up as or whatever,
Yeah,
that whole journey in and of itself, like, is just, it's your practice, right? Like
right,
getting up every day, doing something different. Like, so, okay, so for 3 days, I didn't drink water in the morning. Like that
right.
happens, try to do it again. There's just so many things. Like, I think we can get in a trap, right? It's like
Yes, we
no
definitely can.
gluten, no dairy, no this, no blue
Yes.
dye, da 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 da. And I believe, truthfully, is that like really your nervous system and how your body is able to digest the things, right? We can't put ourselves in a bubble. We're going to be
No.
exposed to negative information,
Yes.
negative pollution, toxins, things like that. And I'm not saying we shouldn't try to stop that, right? If they're intentionally doing it or whatever, then it's
Right.
terrible. But at the same time, like some of these practices that I'm talking about can really actually help your adrenals, clearing
Yeah.
out toxins in your body, especially the vigorous breath work. Like
Oh,
that can
yeah.
detox your body, breath of fire, things like that.
Right.
You're like clearing out energy, the sweating, whatever
Yes.
feels good in your
Right.
body. Yeah.
No, I love all of that. So, what's next for CP Innovations and what you're doing?
Oh, wow. I have so many ideas, so many things. I feel like I'm leaning towards refining some programs. So I have a full disclosure astrology transit right now. So Saturn is on my Mercury. It's been there, it's in
Yeah.
the 10th house. So right now I'm refining, right? I have
Okay.
several frameworks that I'm using, but like, how do I say
Yeah.
this? But
Yeah.
all the things that we just talked about. Like,
Yeah.
what does that look like in a full package, right? Like, that
Right.
feels,
Yes.
like someone could take it and use that in their
Yeah.
life. So I'm in like a refining period right now. I really feel like that. There's some big ideas I have going forward in 2026. We've talked about a potential, conference here. How do we bring
Yeah.
in other people? Yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at. We have Holistic CNY. It's a network as well that I've launched. It's very informal at this point in time. It's anyone that has holistic business practices or a holistic business per se, which could be very big,
Yes.
creative entrepreneur type thing. So, moving into 2026, like what does that look like? Maybe I can have some people that are engaged take the role of moving that
Yeah.
forward as well. So I have a lot of amazing ideas. And I think that
Yeah.
they'll, kind of pan out as they go. I'm just happy to be stable after
Yes.
taking the jump and grateful that
Absolutely.
I am in a beautiful place to just let things happen. Like I said, I mean, the next couple of months, I'm probably going to be chilling out. I had a very, very
Yeah.
busy summer launching this place, putting furniture up, painting, all
Oh,
the things
sure.
necessary.
Yeah.
So just continuing to allow people to come into the space, meeting new people, just letting whatever resonates kind of guide me, really.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. What's one word that captures how you want to show up in the world?
Oh, happy.
That's a good one. That's a good
Yeah.
one. It's an
Joyful,
underrated
happy.
one too.
It is at ease. Like,
Yeah.
I don't wanna be striving anymore, there's no reason for it, like, we really are so hard on ourselves and just letting other people see that that's an option, right?
Yes.
Like, I feel like sometimes I do these things just to see if I can. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yep.
and then
Yep.
walking the talk,
Absolutely.
right? Like, being like,
Yeah.
"Okay, like, I'm
No.
not gonna work 90 hours a week to launch this business, I'm
Right.
gonna work 30 or
I like
20."
it.
Yeah.
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 No, that is fantastic. Well, Shalene, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your story and just your energy too. Like I said, you bring such a calming, thoughtful approach to it all, and I love how you've really shown that excellence and alignment can actually coexist, and that the real power comes from integrating both structure and the soul. Like they both
Mm.
have to go together. It's all about balance, right? And
Yeah.
if you want to connect with Chelan or learn more about CP Innovations on the portal in Utica, I'll link everything in the show notes, and you'll definitely want to explore the incredible work she's doing to help others operate at their highest frequency. I found Chelan through LinkedIn. I was following with the work that she was doing, and it just captured my attention. So definitely check her out there. And thank you, as always, for tuning into the Her Resources podcast. And if this episode resonated with you, please share it with a friend or leave a quick review to help us continue to grow this community of women who are leading, learning, and showing up as their most authentic selves. So until next time, take care of yourself, stay aligned, and keep leading with purpose. And thank you, Chelan.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
You've been listening to the Her Resources podcast, where women's voices, leadership, and growth take center stage. As your host, I'm here to remind you that the journey isn't always easy, but it is always worth it. Every step you take to build confidence, create impact, or use your voice is part of a much bigger story. It's the one that inspires others to do the same. If this episode spoke to you, I'd love it if you subscribed, left a review, or shared it with another woman who's ready to step into her power. And as always, thank you for being a part of this community. Together, we're not just changing conversations, we're changing the future.